What's up, everyone? Welcome. You're watching a fresh new type of direction for the Jixaw channel, and it's kind of scary because I don't know if this is the right move, but like, whatever, let's see what happens, you know? Today, I wanted to take you through the process of creating a sketch/line drawing, and this recording is basically me just going through the whole process and sharing all of my thoughts, you know, as they come. In some parts of the video, I actually go a bit further and really explain the detail of my exact thought process. It's almost like a tutorial at some points, so you're probably gonna fall asleep or click away, which would be the worst sin. Actually, you're about to click away right now. I can see it. Do not know. Oh yeah, one more thing. The first half of the video is recorded in a lower frame rate than I would like. You don't see it a whole lot, but it does get choppy here and there. I'm not making it easy to watch this video. If you've watched the video and you feel like, hey, this is something I want to see more, definitely let me know and hit that, smash that like, invade that like. Okay, enjoy. I'm studying today. Not really like a specific study with like things that I need to do or tutorials, but this Pinterest post right here, using this as reference, and I want to recreate, you know, this sort of look in my own style. I'm just trying to dive into the deep, do things that I wouldn't consider myself able to do, because I don't really think I can get this to this point. But you know, it's good to try, and if I don't try, I'll never know. In my mind, there's two ways of learning with reference: the incorrect and the correct way. The incorrect way would be to look at the reference and then have the goal to like copy the exact thing that you're seeing without actually like looking at the shapes. And then the correct way would be to look at the reference, try to analyze what types of shapes there are in the reference and try to recreate that in your own style. That way you can learn how to observe and also work on your own style, you know, develop that. That's not necessarily what I'm doing here. I'm not really like studying shapes and everything, but I'm using the reference for hints as to how my end result could look better. So one thing I really struggle with is correct eyes and how they're supposed to look. On the right here is like an example of an eye that is properly in depth. Well, as good as it gets anyway. I'm not that good at this specific stuff. And on the left is like an eye that's like drawn by the rules of like, oh, that's where you're supposed to draw an eye, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the problem with this here is that this eye is facing forward to a whole other direction, you know, like that. And since we're drawing in depth here, this part right here, this would be the eyeball, and this would be the eye socket covering it up in this perspective. Of course, I'm just doing whatever, you know, I have no idea if this is the correct way. I'm not really concerned with the correct way, so bear with me as I change these eyes 7 billion times. It's kind of part of my process, you know? It looks like the head size just isn't right. So I'm just gonna do whatever feels right on the proportions and focus on head size next time when I'm actually in need of learning. Let me introduce you guys to my best friend, the Liquify tool. I used to think this was cheating, but, you know, I'm a digital artist and we have tools to our disposal. Why would you not use your tools to improve your drawings, you know? It makes no sense. I'm just kind of eyeballing things, you know? I'm not really following some sort of guide here. And I guess how I determine when it's the right sort of shape is just based on experience, I think. And I just kind of do things based on how I feel it should look. But don't worry, it'll probably change again. I'm a very indecisive guy, and my indecisiveness comes forward in these type of situations. Kind of an issue that I'm working on, not just with drawings, but like with life. You know, I'm aware of it, but I'm not aware on how to exactly change it. I get the feeling that I'm being too nice to people in real life, you know? Nice. A nice little vent for this drawing video. We are deviating a lot from the reference, you know, in terms of perspective and like the character's expression. It's reference for a reason. I'm not redrawing this drawing, I'm using it as reference. And I think that's exactly the term that people confuse themselves with a lot when they think about, oh, I think drawing with reference is cheating. No, it depends on how you use the reference. It's only cheating if you literally copy the reference and draw over it line by line, not learning anything. You're not cheating anyone, you're cheating yourself because you're not learning anything by doing that. we don't have rules out here. It's not like this is the way, or this is how you're supposed to do, or this is how you're not supposed to do it. It's just when you trace references, the only thing you really gain by that is familiarity with drawing lines, which can be a good thing. With learning like that, you'll be handing over a lot of your time. You know, that could be discouraging for people. It's like, oh, I've spent so many hours out here trying to do my best, trying to get better, but it's not working. I'm demotivated, and I'm not going to continue anymore. That's because you're not tackling it in a way that really forces you to challenge yourself. I always like to add a little detail in the sketch here, just to encourage myself keep going. You know, these little face blushes right here, they're not really necessary for this part, because if I'm going to finish this drawing, I'm going to end up redoing the blush anyway. But I don't know, I find it motivating to already have these sort of details worked in. I think for me, it's like, hey, this already looks good. If I just continue, I can just make it look even better. Whereas if it's not there yet because it comes at a later stage, I'll be like, damn, I wish I could just put that down and call it a day. I guess it's a bit more of a healthy motivator, you know? Of course, I'm liquefying to make this... Okay, cheers, Photoshop, thank you so much. I'm liquefying this to make the pose a bit more dynamic, and I think it works already. You know, while I'm here anyway, I might as well turn this into a bit of a mini micro tutorial. I'll teach you how to quickly make the rest of your layers have blue lines so that you can just draw over it without worrying about, you know, layer structure and everything. This is the hand layer, which I'm going to be drawing right now. I want everything underneath to be blue. I can go here, gradient map. Then I'll, whatever, pick any color basics, because that's what everyone will have. Double click that, and then go to the black value, double click that. Make it a bit blue if you want. Okay, and there you go, everything's blue. You can turn down the opacity to make it less blue. But yeah, I'm quite happy with that, so. Okay, and time. That's definitely quite something. I mean, it's not nothing, you know, the basic shapes, they sort of make sense. It's just very janky and not consistent. And of course, don't get me wrong, I'm not just drawing this like, oh, this should look like that. No, I'm looking at the reference. Also, another quick tip, if you're like me and you're like, damn, okay, cool, I like these blue lines, but I want it to have less opacity, you don't have to go through every layer and turn down the opacity. Just go to the gradient map, double click on the color. You can just double click on the blue color, go to the saturation part, just make it lighter. There you go. So it's a very weird shape, but if I look at the facts, I know that a hand would need its base right there. And right in here you would have the connecting sort of fingers and whatnot. And the thumb. So I'm trying to follow this line, basically. And if I just do that, I think it'll work. Bang, 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 like that. You know, just like that. And then what's happening in the reference is the knuckles sort of obstruct the hand itself, which is definitely a challenge. Maybe I can make it work. I would need to redo this sort of finger right there. And then you would have that knuckle depth right there. And then the second knuckle would also connect to that epic skeleton moment. Actually, okay, now I'm looking at this right now. This is looking pretty good. So the reference actually reveals some things to me about the hand. If I trace over these lines, you'll see that the basic structure goes like that. Bang. That's sort of the block. That's where the thumb would be, and then going back. You know, it follows that box shape, basically. And round it off at the bottom right there. There you go, that's sort of the hand. Would you look at that? It even looks cool with the sketch behind it as well. Okay, I actually switched to 30 FPS now because it was 10 FPS. Because I'm recording time lapses, right? But I found out I'm actually doing a whole lot of explaining, and I'm about to do a bit more explaining. So right here, I have the sketch, and it's looking pretty cool. But I want to hide whatever details behind his hand, right? So what you could do is go to the layer, and you could just erase everything, right? But I don't think that's the right call. What you could instead do is make a mask so that it masks anything you don't want seen. It's like wearing a mask, basically. So you go here, add layer mask. And then on that mask, you now, you have a second layer. So now you can erase it right here. And all is good. All gets erased. Get out of here. And then, if you now invert your color, because I erased it, now I'm going to paint back the mask. And as you can see, it's still right there. The data is right there. So I can do this for all these layers that need things removed without worrying that things are going to get removed, because I spent a lot of time on this chin, on the mouth, etc., you know? So it all gets preserved. You can always go back and change the pose of the hand or like change the eye size and whatever without worrying. And that's one of the big benefits of digital drawing. Okay, actually, here is another quick, really important lesson that you might need when you're using Photoshop and stuff. Let's say that I want to move the head to the right. Cool, but now these parts are still erased, right? So you would need to go to the mask, fucking unerase it, and then erase the new parts. You don't need to do that at all. So what you can do is you can unlink the mask position of the drawing position. So click that little link. And now, if I move things around, see, even if the eye gets right there, it'll still be covered. So that's, yeah, like and subscribe. If I look back at where we started this drawing today, in this video, it's already miles better. So that's, you know, I just wanted to show how much things change in these drawings. Because I get the feeling that, at least I thought that whenever I saw a drawing of like really skilled artists, I was like, damn, they can just draw that. They can just sit there and imagine this stuff and then like bang, just like that. But no, it's a super messy process, and this is the exact type of shit that you don't really get shown. It's like the weird, awkward, unfinished version of the drawing, you know? So don't be discouraged. Okay, she's a bit bald, so let's fix that by adding the hair. Now, what I know about hair is that it works in 3 layers, right? Let me just open up a new document here. So what I understand from hair, if we have a basic shape, whatever, chin, that doesn't really matter. I'm gonna fix it anyway. Fine, whatever, who cares? So hair works in 3 layers. You would have the front sort of layer right here. That would extend over to the right side of the eye towards the left side of the eye. And that would be like that. Then you would have the middle all the way up until the back of the head, and then in the back there's another point of reference. And from there you basically draw the strands of the hair to kind of make sense, you know what I mean? So it's this 3-layer principle that I'm always using to get the hair correct and whatnot. Of course, it's a terrible example, so I'll show you in our drawing here. Basic shapes, that's what's important. Maybe a bit higher, maybe a bit more shallow, right there. The side seems like the reference has long sort of strands on the left and right. And then on this side as well, you gotta match it, you know, you gotta be a bit symmetrical in this case. And then the sides, very clearly defined in the reference, so that's nice. And then you would have the back of the hair, which would start right there. Looks like we have a little knot in the reference, making this a whole lot easier. And from there on out, you would draw more and more details, basically. And you always want to draw from that point of reference towards where you want it to kind of end. Otherwise, it's not going to make a whole lot of sense. So, you know, it's not perfect, but it illustrates the point I'm trying to make. So I'm just going to work on this hair a bit. See if I can get it to a satisfactory sort of point. This is something I always come across, is the scale of the hair exactly compared to the head. If the head is this big, then the hair should be a tiny bit bigger because it sticks out, you know? It's okay not to conform by these rules exactly. It's just kind of what feels right, you know? That's how I operate anyway. And then if I'm happy with it, I can go on ahead and delete the head. Again, in the mask, so I still preserve that data, you know? Now if I turn on the hair, there you go. All good. At this stage, what I like to do is flatten the whole drawing, basically, to see if my proportions are sort of correct. So I'll go on ahead and group everything together. Name it sketch. Probably a good idea to save my document. So I'll copy my sketch, turn off the previous one, and then go on ahead and press merge group. And now you've got this one layer with everything. I'll go to the liquify tool. Turn on the background. And now what I'll do is I'll play around with this drawing, see if I can get better proportions here. You know, make the shoulders a bit less wide, maybe increase the size of the arm right there. Head size, all that jazz, you know? Just do whatever feels right. And then have Photoshop give me errors every time. Like that. And then what I'll do is I'll Control Z, go back and forth, see if I like the new version better or the old version better. I think the new version definitely has something, but the old version, that's pretty good already. So I'm just gonna stick with it, you know? From here, I can add a bit more detail, you know, loose stray hairs and whatnot. If I now add too much stuff, it's gonna be difficult to read the direction of the hair. And here, of course, I'm feeling free to use whatever details I can find in my reference image. This is where reference, again, really helps to train you to, like, what details should I be adding, what details should I be leaving out. Okay, from here on out, I'm just gonna redo a bit of these lines, and then I'm pretty happy. So now I'll just do some quick lines just to increase the impact of the drawing. And by that, I just mean going over the edges of the drawing and defining the line depth, basically. That's where the real magic happens. What I'm doing right now is putting all of my lines on one layer, and this is pretty destructive. And what I mean with that is I can't undo these brows right here without deleting everything. And I'm doing that on purpose because I know myself too well. I'm gonna go back and obsess over all these details, and it's never gonna end. So this is kind of like sealing the deal, making sure that I don't go back and redo everything. And if I really want to go back, tough luck, I just got to redo all of the lines in that case. It's a good way to get things done, you know, instead of linger around wishing it was better. Arriving somewhere, but not here. So what I'm doing right here to figure out my shading, I'm not looking at the reference for shading, because I just like to do this on my own. I'm filling in basically, what could you even call it, like global illumination. Make sure everything that's going to be shaded has some pixel data. Then I'll grab a giant brush, lower the opacity a whole lot, and then lighten up the areas that I want to lit up more. You know, it's like working backwards. You don't need to immediately grab attention with your shading, just as long as it fills a role, as long as it fulfills that function that it needs to be doing. I'm also going to give this hair color. Well, color. It's just going to be black. But that increases the contrast of my drawing and makes it much, much more pleasing to look at. And with this also, I can add some highlights to the hair, which would also increase the drawing by like 1,000,000,000% for not a whole lot of work, relatively. So in order to keep this unified, I'll just draw over this part here and then remove all the things that I don't need. Because my brush is very picky about how it's gonna look if I double brush on one spot. That'll probably make sense to artists watching this. If you're not an artist, I'll I'll teach you someday. Maybe, you know, if you guys like these videos, definitely let me know. This is one of those videos where I really need comments to show me feedback on like, hey, this was a good idea. Oh, hey, this was a bad idea. Maybe you, or maybe you should explain this part more. Or, hey, can you teach me about like whatever? I don't know. Anything, you know. I need comments to really guide me through this because this is such a new direction for my channel. And if I'm gonna stick with this, I want to know what you think. Highlight tutorial: just draw a bunch of lines. And it'll work. No, I'm also looking at the reference here. And, you know, drawings in general, they have this general sort of rule where hair highlights are whatever looks good. Whatever looks good works. Light just makes such a difference. Not just in drawings, but in photography, in film, everywhere, man. Light is so important. It's crazy how much it elevates everything. Of course, again, following the distortion of the hair, that'll keep it interesting. You know, I'm just using just general brush with rice. And a koa egwa. A koa egwa. So many people think that the jokes are gonna go away now that I'm doing this new channel direction thing. No, it's staying the exact same. In fact, it's just gonna get worse because like we're gonna be in like these serious videos. And all of a sudden you're just gonna hear General Chicken Egg. Here is another neat little trick. In order to give this idea of hair transparency, you can erase some of it around the eyes. And, you know, put the shading and all that back on top. Then that'll give the idea of like transparency without actually doing much. As for the skin, she's kind of topless, so I guess let's play with that. Not in a weird way, but I'll just do a medium sort of gray, just to give the idea of like contrast and difference. And what this does is it gives me this canvas to basically shade on, if that makes sense. You know, I'll just literally show you. So here we have the layer. I'll add a new mask, and now if I reverse my color right here, I am now masking parts of my gray sort of fill. So now, just go over and do the reverse of the shading that I did before. And right now I'm wondering where's the light even coming from, but let's not sweat it too much. Of course, lips are also a different story. In this case, I'm gonna give it a basic fill. And here too, you can play with highlights, making it more interesting. Have a look. So right now it's just filled. I'll erase in general just to lower the opacity a bit. Go to my brush, make it white. Make it a tiny little brush. Add some of that Bob Ross-esque detail right there. Remove some of it, add some of it again. You know, play around with it, you know? I'm a fan. I am a fan of this work. We'll add some light to the eyes as well. That looks cool. In it. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, see what I mean? God damn, that's the type of shit that I'm talking about. It's these little accidents. But I don't want to go overboard. Let's just do the middle bit so that it shines like that. I think this is cool. It's not perfect, but what is? What is perfect? Blah blah blah. What layer am I even on? This is a consequence of working with too many layers. You know, it gets messy real quick, and that's also quick tip right there. That makes you lose motivation as well. You're not gonna want to continue at some point. You're gonna be like, okay, fuck it, I'm done. I don't care anymore. Bye bye. Where is this line hidden? Hello? Ugh. Please, for your own sake, name your layers. You're gonna thank yourself. It's agonizing already. I think I'll just give her a shirt. Whatever. Why not? Okay, I'm getting sick of all these layers, so I'm just gonna merge everything. It's fine. Wait, I'll save. Make a V2. Then I'll merge all of my layers. So now I can just kind of cheat my way into semi-shading these arms. Not perfect, but whatever. Whatever you're happy with, you know what I mean? And cool. Finally, I'll add a bit of a gradient map on top. And be careful with this, because this is gonna look way too cool. You have so many options to play around with, so just use it wisely. You know, you're gonna get stuck using your colors. And this looks cool enough, so there we go. Add the tag, call it a day. Ram Artworks. This is going to be posted on my Ko-Fi. Link is down below. And that's it for the video. Thanks so much for watching. If you're on Twitter, follow me there. I've got an art account as well. Blue Sky, actually, much better platform. Yeah, like I said in the middle of the video, leave your thoughts, guys. Is this a cool new direction for the channel, or are you like, bottom gear, please? Let's actually do a drinking game. Every time you see a bottom gear comment, just take a shot for me. Okay. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.